sorry I was a couple minutes late getting set up for stream tonight. It was a long day at work. But how is everyone doing? I hope the week is treating you kindly so far. Doing all right? Glad to hear it. What are we going to be working on tonight, everyone? I'm glad to hear the stream is something to look forward to. Oh, congratulations to your friend. That's so exciting. I was also traveling this weekend. I got to meet up with my absolute best friend from high school, who I haven't seen since January when she came out to surprise me for my birthday. So it was so good, so good to see her and her boyfriend this weekend, and I got to visit them at their new apartment, which I'd never seen before, and meet their cat. Their cat's name is Pants. She's a little menace. She is the queen of the household. She does all sorts of tricks for treats, and she is the cutest thing I've ever seen. So I spent the whole weekend playing with my friend's cat, and it was great. But now I'm back, and I actually have to do work at my work, and I'm very tired. How dare they? How dare they expect me to do work at my work? Yes, her name is Pants. She's the cutest little thing. She's a tuxedo cat with she's all black except for she's got a white belly and white whiskers, and she's got white feet. So she should be named Socks, but she's not named Socks. She's named Pants. It's very silly. New outline for the secret work in progress. Very fun. Very fun. Editing. Very nice. I want a cat so badly. So badly. But I can't have one in my current apartment, and I don't move in to a new apartment until February, so I'm just biding my time. You must give your cat all the scratches for me. All of the pets. Ooh, exciting. I love reading through all of the Inkling stories every year whenever the big compilation posts are made with all the links. And I always tell myself I'm going to read all of them thoroughly and make comments, but there's like hundreds and hundreds of them now, and I cannot physically do that. So I reblog all of them instead and mark them as TBR, telling myself that I'll put them in my queue, and then as they post like once a day, then I'll read them, and then I can't. But I think I've reblogged every single Inkling story through my queue. I just haven't physically read all of them simply because there's too many to keep up with. But I always love going back to the old archives. Inklings is a challenge on Tumblr that happens every October for the past 2 or 3 years now. I think the first year was 2021. And it is a challenge for the Christian community on Tumblr, which is surprising if you don't know there's a Christian community on Tumblr. There is one. And I'm Catholic. I'm not super vocal about my religion on Tumblr just because I know that makes some people uncomfortable, but I am. And it's a challenge to write science fiction and fantasy and speculative fiction stories inspired by the likes of J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and J.K. Chesterton, and to write speculative fiction stories with a Christian theme, to write more good Christian fiction with speculative fiction in the just speculative fiction genre, and put some more of that out in the world. Because a lot of Christian readers and writers have a problem with the Christian fiction genre because so much of it is overly preachy and a little bit annoying, especially if you grew up with the overly preachy kind of stuff. And there can be good stuff out there, like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and a lot of writers that I really enjoy. I've been reading a lot of it this year, actually. A couple authors on Instagram that I really like. Amanda Aller is fantastic. She's got a trilogy called Daughter of the Sun, Children of the Earth, and I think the third book's coming out soon. It's called Son of the Stars, and the Wingfeather Saga are like my two big favorites right now. But yeah, Inklings is a month-long challenge in October, and all the participants get sorted into one of the three groups, either C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, or J.K. Chesterton. And each of the different groups has a different theme, like portal fantasy, secondary world fantasy, and then I think J.K. Chesterton's changed this year. I forget what it is now. And then you start writing on the 1st of the month, and then by like the 20th or 30th of the month, you submit your stories to the blog just by tagging them, and then the person who runs the blog assembles all of them into huge posts with links and tagging all of the blogs who wrote them. And so then you can go through and read the stories by either theme or by which category they were under, by which author they were under. And it's a really cool way to engage with the community. It's one of my favorite events on Tumblr. And I signed up for it this year, but I don't have a single clue what I'm going to write because I don't know which group I'm in yet. And I'm really hoping that it gets sorted onto C.S. Lewis, because it would give me an excuse to write all of the Runaway stories that I'm going to be working on tonight. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I've used Inklings as an excuse to write Runaways stories in the past, because Runaways is a portal fantasy, and so it fits really well into the C.S. Lewis category. But I think I've been on all 3 teams before, C.S. Lewis, J.K. Chesterton, and Tolkien. But yeah, it's a really fun challenge. I highly encourage you, even if you're not Christian, to go check out the Inklings Challenge blog. I think it's just at Inklings Challenge. There might be a dash in there. And just read the stories, because they're all really, really good. I found some really fantastic ones over the years. And then, like I said, throughout October as I come in, and in November when the full compilation posts are done with all the links, I like to go through and reblog all of them and put them in my queue, so that way like 1 or 2 will post a day. And just as a way to, increase engagement in the community and help those writers reach an audience that they might not reach before. Some people have also done really fun merch for it in the past. I think there have been stickers. And then a few of the people in the chat are from a Discord server that we're all in. Yeah, and then that kind of brings me into the next topic, which is the stories that I'll be working on today. I want to create a collection or anthology of sorts to go with Runaways for after the book is out, because it's kind of considered best practice to have in like the afterword or back matter of the book, once the story's finished, like about the author, where to find other work, and so it's good to have other work out, even if you're a debut author. And this is your debut novel, to have other work out there for other people to go find. And so I want to try and have more to offer once the book is out, and not just like disappear off the face of the earth for 5 years while I go write the next book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stories that I've written in the past for Inklings and other challenges. I think I did some for like the Abalone Teas or Katie's Summerfest challenge a couple times, and just write short stories about the different side characters and the world and just other stuff that happens in the book, because I have a really big cast of side characters that are all really interesting. I wrote some for my newsletter last year when I was doing like quarterly stories for my newsletter, and then I quit doing that. And so I'm going to take all those stories, rework them, put them into an anthology, write more stories, put them into the anthology. And I also want to do study guides, because it's a middle grade book, and I think having study guides for teachers, parents, educators, librarians, to go with the book and be like discussion questions, reading comprehension, about like the symbolism. And then I think I've mentioned before, one of the characters, Hannah, is kind of a naturalist. She studies plants and animals' scientific names and memorizes them. So having one about the science and the STEM could be really fun. And then having one about like the religious themes for any of the Christian moms who might be like reading this and giving it to their kids. Because the Christian themes are very subtle. Like, if you've read like C.S. Lewis's Narnia books, or you've like watched Indiana Jones and you're agnostic, I feel like you can handle Runaways. It's not that in your face. So I feel like you could handle the Christian themes even if you're agnostic and you've seen Indiana Jones. Like, it's that level of like folklore. So yeah, I'm gonna do study guides to go with the book about like, and you can like not have all of them, but like you can pick and choose the one that you want to. So if you just want the two that aren't religious, you could grab those two too, and like just have those on my website or have them as like a cookie for my newsletter. So that way, if parents finish reading the book and then they want to go download them, they can. So my goal for the next year, as I'm doing these write-ins, will be to start assembling all of that. But I'm guessing it's going to be like a full another book worth of content. So that'll be a lot to do, and then I'll have to go through the entire process of passing it through beta readers, editing, beta readers, hiring my actual editor to pass it over, hiring an actual proofreader to pass it over, etc. Parallel to the process of actually publishing Runaways. So that'll be an undertaking and a half, but that's what we'll be working on tonight. And if I can double dip and use this as my Inklings Challenge story, that would be great. So please put me on Team C.S. Lewis. That would be so convenient. Otherwise, I'm going to have to come up with something else. But I've been rambling enough. I'm going to read the chat again here. I love watching Inkling stories appear, although I've barely been on Tumblr lately because life, mood. Yeah, that's part of why I like to reblog them, because sometimes stuff gets buried and then you just can't find it again. So sometimes you don't have time to read it when it comes across your dash, but you have time later. So that's why I like to put things in my queue indefinitely and then have them keep coming back around. But yeah, writing short stories about side characters is super fun. Background for one of my main characters making highly questionable choices. I love that. Are you working on Thief of Hearts? Is that your work in progress right now, if I'm not mistaken? I don't remember if it's not our... Or are you working on the Aurora story? I don't remember. I want to say it was one of those two, but I could be mixing you up with somebody else. Yeah, I'll quickly run through the list of stories that I have right now. The existing ones, these were on Ko-Fi. I've taken them off now that I'm reworking them. I had a narrative poem, which was called Jack of Fables. And if you've ever seen one Tumblr post that's like, what if all of the fairy tale characters of like Jack and the Beanstalk and Jack Frost and Jack-o'-lantern and et cetera, were all the same person? This is that story where it's like, it's that guy's story as he becomes Jack-o'-lantern, Jack and the Beanfrost, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, etc. And it's all in a poem. But when I wrote it, I didn't really understand how rhythm worked. I had a rhyme scheme, but it wasn't super consistent. And so the poem's also like 6 pages long, and keeping it consistent that long without breaking form was very difficult, while also trying to tell story through the poem. So I really just need to go back and like hammer out the mistakes. I still think the story is solid, but I just need to, fix the errors. I have a very experimental story that tells a Christmas carol through like the 3 ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. And it tells the story in 3 verb tenses, past, present, and future tense. That used to have Lady Bridget in it, but I think I'm going to put Lady Bridget in a different story and just write a Christmas story with these 3 verb tenses. This one was probably the weakest link. I have one with these twins who switch between each other's bodies. It's a weird, like, half-switch changeling thing. But the text alignment switches between left and right on the page whenever the 2 twins are speaking. and it's told in first person. So that one's also very experimental and weird. I think this one's solid. It just needs to go deeper into their backstory. So right now it's just like a little vignette, but I think it'll become longer as I flesh it out. And then I have another one, which is like kind of an Ice Queen, Snow Queen retelling, which was a former Inklings Challenge story called The Replacement. And that one's okay, but it's very, very short, so that'll also need to be reworked and become longer. Oh, Thief of Hearts is the Aurora story. Okay, cool. I am not confused. I'm curious which character in that case is making the highly questionable choices. Yes, what if all the Jacks are one Jack? His name is Jack of Fables in this version. I really like this poem. I think it's fun. I think it's a good time. I wrote it on winter break from school in the middle of Christmas season when I was juggling 4 younger siblings, and so I did not have enough time to properly proofread it, and it really shows. All of these stories were actually written when I was a very, very busy college student, and it shows. I don't think they're bad. It shows that I was very rushed when I was writing them. They're short and they're unedited. Ooh, Emmett, I'm excited to see where you go from here. So, yeah, I think we'll get started with that before I start writing anything new. But the new stuff that I want to work on is with a character named Quercu, who's a changeling that mentors Cecilia, something with Brigid, something with the Sealy Monarchs, something that's like a Peter Pan and Lost Boys retelling, something that's planting roots for a character in a different story. This kind of like a Howl's Moving Castle inspired retelling set in the Unseelie Court, and then a bunch of different poems and vignettes about some other creatures in the fairy world. So I've got my work cut out for me here. But there's so much changeling lore in Runaways. I'm so excited for everybody to read all of my changeling lore. So much of it is spoilers. But I'm so excited. The thing that sucks about having a major plot twist in chapter 5 is that like 95% of your story is spoilers. Yeah. That's gonna make marketing really hard for me. Someone should have thought about that before they wrote the book. It's fine. But if we want to get started, I'll switch over to the timer. I've just been yapping. That's not the timer. That's OBS. That's the timer. Shall we get started? All right. Happy writing. Hello, how's everyone doing? Good, I'm glad you got some stuff sorted. That's great. You're working on your outline, right? Yeah. Ooh, crutch words are the worst. Runaways is with my proofreader right now, and it's shared in like a live Google Docs, so I can see all the edits that she's making. And so like every 10 or 20 minutes at work, I get a notification that's like 40 comments have been made, or like 40 changes have been made to your document. And I'm like, oh no, how many commas do I need to fix? It's great though. I'm very happy that I got it professionally proofread. 156 words, that's great. What are you working on tonight? I'm sorry that you got joined right at the very, very beginning of the timer. We were chatting right before about the Inklings challenge on Tumblr, which is a Christian short story challenge inspired by C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and G.K. Chesterton, that some of us are participating in, as well as some short stories that I'm working on for the Runaways anthology. But then we got started with our first sprint and you joined immediately after. So we didn't get to hear about your project, but feel free to share if you wish. I started editing the Jack of Fables poem, and dear Lord, I did not edit this properly before. I know I passed it by one friend of mine who's a writer friend, but they are not a poet, so that's not their fault. And to be fair, we were both very busy college students at the time, so this is gonna need a lot of work, but I'm confident I will be able to figure it out. Okay, cool. So you've participated before, you know what it is. Yeah, October also is the Inklings challenge, or Inklings? Not Inklings. We've already talked about that. Inktober. Or if not Inktober, one of the various other Drawtober, Sketchtober challenges that are associated with it. I always love doing those. Last year I did one for my Space Odyssey story. And it was a lot of fun, but doing a drawing challenge and a writing challenge at the same time can be very challenging. Yeah, I know there's some drama with the original Inktober creator, and then the prompt list isn't always everyone's favorite, so there's like a million spin-offs now, but it's always very fun. How many words can someone get in while doing jumping jacks? Well, now you have to share the answer for science. How many words? How many jumping jacks? I should probably do more jumping jacks. I need to work on my cardio. I'm assuming everybody has heard the drama about NaNoWriMo and their AI and everything. So I don't know if I already deleted my NaNoWriMo account, and I haven't been using them for the past several years due to other random drama and the fact that I just don't like their new quotes around new. It's been up for like 5 years at this point. But their new website, since they combined it with the Camp Nano website, I am an Excel person. I have always been an Excel person. And I am also a Nano rebel. I always was working on existing projects, like Runaways, for the past 5 years, 3 years. So if I was working on existing projects, I couldn't do that on the Nano website. So I deleted my account and grieved that. But I know a lot of people are doing spin-offs of that too, but it's kind of sad to see the community splinter just because it was kind of a centralized location. But I'm glad that people are distancing themselves from the organization at least. Yeah, it's good to get the words done and to have the community. I will try to put together some Excel templates with spreadsheet like graphs and like the equations already built in, and like post them on Drive and stuff for people to use and download with my like month in review or right before Nano, because I think that'd be useful for a lot of people, and just make them like free to use and share and pass around. Because if you don't know how to set up equations and graphs, it can be a little intimidating to do. And I'll have one version for like if you're starting a project from scratch, and then one if you're starting a project with existing words, and like have it set up to calculate, well, if these are the existing words, like how many words did you write today? And then you don't have to do any math, you just have to look at the word count, and have a couple graphs to go with it. And I think that'll be really useful for people. So I'm planning to upload and share those. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Yeah, I haven't found a good spreadsheet way for tracking editing. I just kind of go by pages now and like keep a mental tally. It's not really something I've been able to put in a spreadsheet. Yeah, I don't put a lot of my writing on Nano. I was doing NaNoWriMo since like... Let me actually check the year. I have the book on my shelf. I started doing NaNoWriMo in 2014. And I was part of the Young Writers program at the time. I was homeschooled or cyberschooled. And at the time, Kindle Direct Publishing didn't exist. It was still CreateSpace. And the rewards were actually good. They let you print 5 paperback versions of your book in whatever format you wanted. Like, it was paperback, but in whatever format you wanted. You could format it however you wanted if you won NaNoWriMo. And because I was doing the Young Writers program, I could set my word count lower. So I think I did like 20,000 words, not 50,000 words. And I made so many friends on the forums, and I thought it was really cool. And I wrote a book that was a historical fiction little novella about a kid who was a princess in Renaissance Italy, and she made friends with Leonardo da Vinci when he came to her mother's court, and like built a glider with him, and then sailed off to see Renaissance Italy, found her estranged uncle who was gonna like take over their city-state, and then got involved in politics, and then had to like lead a war and invented aerial warfare. And it's very silly, and it's not very well written, because I was 14. But I printed it off, and it's a real book that I'm holding in my hand right now and looking at as I speak. And so I owe a lot to NaNoWriMo, because it was the first book I ever wrote. And I've been interested in writing before that, but I thought it was a really cool program, and I did it for many years after that, and so it's kind of a kick in the teeth that the program has fallen so far from grace. But it is what it is, and I hope that something better can rise in its place, because I think it was a really valuable experience for me as a young writer, and I hope that something else rises to give that experience to young writers, because I think that's really important. Yeah, having centralized stats is really nice. Since that first Young Writers program, I never really won that many nanos because I was working on like big fantasy series that couldn't be done in a month. So looking at my stats page is just kind of like failure, 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 failure. So I didn't have that many qualms about deleting my account, but I can see why it would be really, really difficult for some people. This is another one of those like old projects I want to rework at some point, because I do genuinely like the concept of Renaissance Princess builds a glider. But again, product of 14-year-old brain needs to get massively overhauled. But if we're ready to get started, we can switch back over to the timer. All right, let's get started. Happy writing. are we doing? Writing poetry really makes you question if you actually know how to count to 10. The answer is no, I don't. 352, very good. I relate to that. Recognizing your bad habits is the first step to improving as a writer, but it can be very painful sometimes. Like right now, realizing I don't know how to count to 10 when it comes to keeping my syllables consistent when I make epic poetry. Or, you know how when you say a word so many times it stops sounding like a word? I'm trying to figure out where the stresses lie in certain words. Like eternity, eternity, eternity. Like, where is the stress in that word? So I found a website called howmanysyllables.com that tells you how many syllables are in a word. And what was another one that I was struggling with? Deal. Is deal one syllable or is it two syllables? Is it deal or is it deal? Yeah. Deal. 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 So, yeah, I found a website that tells you objectively where it's supposed to be, how many syllables it's supposed to be, and how many stresses it's supposed to be. But I'm on stanza 3, and then I jumped ahead to the end and I did like 2 more. So like 5 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 33. I'm 5 stanzas into a 33 stanza long narrative poem. And I somehow have to fix this while preserving the story. So I don't know how I'm going to do that, but we're going to figure it out. Kangaroo. Kangaroo is a weird word when I think about it. Jack was originally a bigger character in the story. In like draft 2, he had a short cameo for like a page and a half. And when the story's 150 pages, a 2-page long cameo is more significant. I'm sorry you have to go, but thank you for coming. I'm glad you were able to make it. Yeah, in the current version of the draft, he's been mostly written out aside from like a throwaway line or two. So this is going to be like the only version of his backstory that we're going to get. Does anybody have any favorite lines from their writing sprints? Here's a bit of mine. YouTube won't keep the lines intact, but that's what I've got. This is Jack's mother yelling at him when he sells all of their money to the trader for the magic cow. Or they sells their cow to the magic trader for the magic beans. To become Jack and the Beanstalk. Why did you save me? There's carpet. Out of context, this line is so confusing. It's like, oh, you can't save me, there's carpet in the room. I'm sure it's... I'm sure this makes more sense in context, but this is very funny to me out of context. All right, are we ready to get started on the next sprint? I don't know. I think it might be better without the context. That's really funny. You're welcome to provide context if you so choose, but it is your story. The dashes make me feel like she's gasping for breath, so I might be completely misreading it. Is the carpet the threat? Is he saving her from the carpet? Or is she saving him from the carpet? Are they jumping off the carpet because it's like booby trapped? I'm wondering. Ah, that makes a little bit more sense. Roughly 3 words per jumping jack. Gotcha. I feel like I should have been able to put that together, but I am sleepy tonight. All right, we should have time for about 1 or 2 more, depending on who else here. So, shall we get started? All right, happy reading. How are we doing? Good. Any favorite lines from this session? I'm not writing anything new, I'm still just diagnosing problems with the old one. What just happened to my formatting? Oh boy. Mara opened her eyes. The last thing she remembered was begging Flick not to put her in the pod even though she was tired. The shadow passed by the hatch door and she frowned. He had put her in it. Oh no, that's not good. I was messing around with some formatting and now the table of this is like off the page and I don't understand why. There we go. It's been fixed. I don't know how that happened. That's very frustrating. I think I fixed it. And there we go. like whenever you're doing tables in Microsoft Word and you like change one thing and then it like throws everything off. But this isn't the sort of thing I want to do in Excel either. Anyway, it's been fixed. I have a table just to like count the stanza. One for the lines that I'm editing, one for the syllable count, just so that I can have it written down, one for the rhyme scheme, and then one for like notes. And eventually, when I rewrite it, I'll have this like on one side of the split screen or on my second monitor. And then I'll have a new document on the other page. All right. We haven't heard from Junie Mooney in a bit. I hope she's doing okay. Are you going to stick around for the evening? I think I've got one more sprint left in me, but if you're ready to call it here, I think we can call it here. But it's up to you. She just texted me on Tumblr and said that her chat messages haven't been coming through. So I'll just wait for a second and see if she can refresh the page and come back in. But I think she might be popping out, actually. That's unfortunate. Well, if she has to step out, then I suppose we can continue. I'm sorry, I don't know why that's happening. I'm guessing it's on YouTube's end, but I'm not seeing that there's anything wrong with the stream itself from the YouTube studio. So it might be something with like their external servers. It's like my hosting platform is fine. I don't know what's going on. Alright, if we're ready to get started, we can get started. Oh, hello. Glad you could make it. We're just getting started. One of our other members had to just drop out because they were having some technical difficulties, but I'm so glad you could come. If you don't mind sharing, you could always tell us what you're working on. Character profiles are always so much fun. They're such a good way to explore a character's mindset and where they come from. So I always love making them for my stories. If you're ready to get started, I can start the timer, but I'm so glad you were able to make it. I'm working on a series of short stories that I'd previously written, and I'm editing them for an anthology to go with my debut novel, Runaways, which is a middle grade novel about a girl who goes to Fairyland to rescue her sister from the Pied Piper. And the story that I'm currently working on is actually a narrative poem called Jekka Fables. But I wrote it a couple years ago when I was a very busy college student, and you can really tell because it didn't really get a good editing pass. And so the meter and rhythm is kind of all over the place. The rhyme scheme is intact, but everything else is a little wonky. So I'm just giving that an editing pass tonight, so that way I can put it into the anthology. But if everyone's ready to go, we can get started. Happy writing. Hello. How did the writing sprint go for everyone? Pretty good? Good. I got through about 10 stanzas total today. You said you're working on a fantasy series. What's it about? I see you're another author tuber. I'll have to check out your channel. I realize I'm probably gonna have to rework this poem from scratch, but that's fine. I have more experience now. Moon Crystal, from your writing, do you have any favorite lines? You're the only one of us that's actually drafting tonight. A ragtag group that is brought together by a princess, but the novels follow as they get collected. And of course, war and intrigue ensues. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I really love that premise. I'm a fantasy author myself, and I love reading a lot of long epic fantasy, so that sounds right up my alley. Is this your first time coming onto a sprint? The excerpt is surprise, he said, smiling faintly. Behind him was a big screen. There was something colorful and flowery on it with pretty lettering. She scooted closer to read the swirly text. Ooh, that's a nice surprise, I hope. Considering the last excerpt was her getting shoved in a pod against her will, that was much more pleasant than I expected that to turn out. So now she's in a pod, she's waking up from the pod, and she has a nice surprise. That seems much more pleasant. forced sleepy time. Yeah, that sounds about right. Ah, okay. Well, I'm glad you could make it back. I do the same thing where I watch a lot of AuthorTube under my personal account, because that's just the one that I'm logged into on my phone. And then I'll try to leave comments being like, "Hi, I'm an author," and try to connect with people in the comments. And then I'm like, wait, this isn't the right account, and I have to switch. But I'm glad to have you back. Unfortunately, I probably will not be able to do another sprint because it is getting late for me and I do have work in the morning. But I'm glad everyone was able to come, and I'm so glad that you got to work on your stories a little bit. Thank you so much for sharing them with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to stop into these streams and write with me. I always have so much fun doing these. I will be sure to post soon when I'll be doing one of these in November. Let me just pull up my calendar real quick. Normally I try to do these the last week of the month to stand in for like the reviews and interviews that I normally do. But the last week, actually, no, it's October next month. Yeah, I should be able to do one the last week in October. So I'll have to schedule that out and post it all over my social media. The last week in November, I'm going to be traveling with friends, so it might get shifted a week earlier just because of the Thanksgiving holidays, and then we'll see what happens with Christmas and the Christmas, New Year's travel circuit, because I'll have family to go visit. But I'm planning to continue these next year, and I'll be doing them pretty consistently. As I mentioned before on the stream before you joined, I'm working on a companion anthology to go with my debut novel, Runaways. So the book itself is about Hannah, who's rescuing her sister from the Fae, and I have a bunch of side characters in that book who are friends and companions and mentors to the girls when they're in the Seelie court. And then there's a bunch of antagonists in the Unseelie court who I don't really get to explore. And so I wanted to just kind of explore Fairyland more since the girls are on a one-track mind kind of quest. And so this anthology is a way to explore the fairy courts more. And it'll be the sort of thing where at the end of the book, like the end content matter, it'll be like, did you enjoy this book? Scan the QR code to go read the anthology. And it'll be like a newsletter, free cookie, like sign up for my newsletter and get this free book, or it'll be published alongside Runaways as a companion piece, or something you can get as part of the pre-orders. I'm not sure what I'll do with it yet, but I need to finish it first. But I thought it'd be fun to have supplementary content to go with Runaways, so I'll be working on these anthology stories during these sprints for the next several months. So I'm really excited to do these with you, and I hope you can come again. In the meantime, have a great night.